Welcome to Mortgage on My Mind, where we take the mystery out of mortgages and make dreams of home ownership a reality. I'm Natalie Salins, a top 1% mortgage broker with 20 years of experience, based right here in sunny Los Angeles. If you've ever wondered about pre-approvals, appraisals, or what loan product is right for you, don't worry, I've got Mortgage on My Mind, so you don't have to. Each week, I'll bring you expert advice, real-life stories, and insider tips to help you navigate California's competitive real estate market with confidence. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or just curious about how it all works, this podcast is for you. So let's talk mortgages, demystify the process, and make your real estate goals a reality. Ready to get started? Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. This is Mortgage on My Mind. I'm Natalie Salins. Today, we are here with Michael Bell, who is a highly accomplished real estate broker out in Pasadena in California. He has over 30 years of experience, and he is ranked #1 agent at Sotheby's in the greater Pasadena area since 2015. Michael has closed over 643 transactions, which is amazing. He's totaled more than 500 million in sales volume, which is quite an incredible feat. But what's really interesting about Michael for me is that he is the author of a book called Seller Mistakes. And he's also like an advocate for ethical and effective transactions. And he is obviously widely respected for his mastery in complex sales, which include probate and luxury properties. But his book has hit the Amazon bestseller list and has also sold over 40,000 copies, which is amazing. So welcome, Michael. So lovely to have you on the podcast today.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us, let's start here. Let's start with the book. What inspired you to become an author?
I think a lot of people want to be an author. I think if you talk to people that have actually written a book, they all say it's an excruciating experience.
Yes.
I don't want to do it again. I don't think I have another book in me, and I think this one's enough.
Okay.
But what got me into this book was I love data, and when I've been selling for about 35 years, and I've always wanted to know what works and what doesn't work. And the National Association of Realtors puts out a questionnaire to people that just bought or sold a house nationwide. They send out to 160,000 people that just bought or sold. They ask them all these different questions, like 135 different questions, and they give all this data to the realtors. And it's data that they do share, but it doesn't seem like they really talk about it that much. And it was shocking what I found out. And we'll talk more about this, but for example, open houses are incredibly ineffective and dangerous, and I'll talk about the stats. Print ads are almost completely useless. The real estate sign is almost completely useless and dangerous. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that came out of this data, and I thought, this is crazy. I started writing like a research paper. I wanted to be the guy that pulled the curtain away for everybody to see behind the scenes and write what's called a white paper. And I met a guy who's a publisher, and I told him my idea, and he said, there's a book there. So it took me 5 years to write the book. It was excruciating. Wow. It was before AI, okay? And I decided just to put it out there. And I've got 2 teenagers, and I always told them that you need to finish what you started. And they did the same thing to me. Dad, you told us you need to finish what you start. You need to finish this book. So yeah. It was a bit excruciating. And it's a book, it's loaded with statistics. It's not my opinion, it's statistics. And okay. It really explains what most people, most loan agents and buyers and sellers and realtors don't really know, but it's just basically told a different way, easier to understand. And I was hoping that it would sell. I just thought it'd be great if it sold a few hundred copies, but it sold 40,000 copies, and it hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list 4 years ago, and I'm still talking about it.
Why do you think it had such success? Like what is the information that you think is driving people to want to buy it and read it?
There's no other book out there. And when I decided to do some research on the book to figure out if this is something that's out there, there's a lot of realtors and financial people that have written books, and most of the books that they've written about is they're bragging or they're telling these stories, but there wasn't really anything that was really just tied into data and statistics, solid data and solid statistics. And I just thought, I'm just going to do this. And
Yeah.
it's on Amazon if you want to buy it. If you'd like a
Yeah.
free copy, you can email me. I'd be happy to send you a free digital copy. You can go to my website, you can stream it and listen if you want to listen to me for 2 hours. I actually did the audio
You did
book,
the audio?
but it's a tool that people use constantly. And I get phone calls from all across the nation from people saying, I read your book. I want to find a Mike Bell. Can you help me find a Mike Bell? And I probably do this 2 or 3 times a month and help people find somebody that has what I call a high level of fiduciary service. That now the working title of the book was actually High Level Fiduciary Sales, which is it's not the best title for a book. Publishers,
Obviously, the title is working.
but so we want to go into seller mistakes. Yeah.
And what would you say is that fiduciary duty? What's the difference between you and somebody who's not Mike Bell?
I'm not going to cast all realtors in the same light. It's to say that they don't have high level of fiduciary service mindset. I will tell you some of the drawbacks of our industry. For example, dual agency. Dual agency is
Yeah,
actually legal as long as it's disclosed, and we're talking about California. But there's actually 9 states in the United States that don't allow dual agency because it's a total conflict of interest.
total.
An attorney can't work both sides, but at least in California, they can if as long as it's fully disclosed. It may sound really good that your realtor has a buyer for your house. It tends to help the buyer and it helps the
Sure.
agent. It normally it's really hard to get market price. And if you're a home seller and you want to get the most amount of money, let me tell you where the money is. It's in the market price. And you have to allow the whole marketplace to really speak. It's hard for
Yeah,
the marketplace to speak if you're favoring somebody. And that's dual agency. And I just don't practice it.
sure.
I've never practiced it. But there's a lot of agents, and
Not just practice it, they push for it. Yeah,
they push for it, but I also don't want to have you get negative comments because sometimes dual agency works, but it's very rare. For the rare type of property, I think it could be appropriate, but generally, if you at the end of the day, our
so
job
you
is
would say if it's a specific type of property that needs its own type of understanding, then it makes
yeah.
sense for you to represent both because you have a better understanding of the property.
But at the end of the day, it's funny because I get phone calls from people that want to buy my property, one of my listings, and they'll say on the phone, they'll say, "I'm really interested in 123 Main Street. I'd like you to represent me. I don't have a realtor." And then I'll explain to them, I'll say, I have an agreement with the seller. I can't represent a buyer on this transaction. I'd be happy to tell you everything you want to know about the property. I'll find you a realtor. And
Yeah,
guess what? They all say the same thing. They already have a realtor. But they always say, I was hoping to go directly to you so I can get a better deal.
sure.
So, anyways, that happens an awful lot. Now, if you're thinking about hiring somebody to sell your house and they tell you there might be an unrepresented buyer, what do you want me to do? Tell them this, at least if you're in California, I think it's 1 in 41 for every 41 people in the state of California, they have a real estate license. You are not casting people to the wolves. Trust me, there's plenty of
Absolutely.
realtors out there that can help them.
Yeah. At least now you guys get to sign, not that you didn't before, but now you need to have a broker agreement signed.
So a buyer broker agreement, yes, it's the
Yes.
law in every state.
Yes. Yeah. Where it didn't have they were there, but you didn't have to have one. And it
And remember,
protects that.
that's supposed to be consumer friendly. That's a whole nother podcast.
Okay. Well, just quickly, why would you say that's good? It is consumer friendly. Why? Because you get the better of the realtor because of it, or
So a lot of buyers, they may call 3 or 4 realtors and say, if you find something for me, I'll use you. It makes it really difficult with the new law because you get married to somebody, or at least you get obligated to pay them a commission, even if you use somebody else. You could put yourself, if you're not reading
sure,
this stuff correctly and you're not understanding it, you could you're signing a contract. It's like a listing contract, but with a buyer. It
sure.
you could be on the hook. And in Pasadena, where the average price is $1.5 million, you could be on the hook for 15, no, not $45,000, $40,000.
So
That's,
do you think it benefits the buyer?
do I think it benefits the buyer? Yes, it can if you have a good broker.
That's the thing. Like, I have a friend
Yeah.
that just got in on something, and I, of course, I'm just the mortgage person for them. And a few things that have happened thus far with their realtor, they don't trust her anymore. And I'm like, you have to wait it out. And they're like, but there's a house or there's a this. And I'm like, then you have to write with them, unfortunately. Or I think there's a way for them to mutually come to an agreement to cancel the contract. But I
So
believe that,
actually, the last chapter of my book actually talks about how to cancel a contract. And to cancel a contract, you have to get ahead of yourself in a little bit. Before you sign a real estate contract with an agent to either sell or buy your house, my recommendation is you have a conversation with that agent and say, hey, if this doesn't work out, if I lose trust in you, if you drop the ball, will you let me out? And if that agent says, yeah,
right.
I'm not a lawyer, but if somebody who's licensed in the state of California tells you something, that talk to an attorney, but that's binding. Uh,
I know, but it's so,
but that's
isn't
an
it?
that's a way of getting out if you need to, because
Right.
you to be able to say, hey, you said this. But I think it's really important for people to talk about if there's an easy out clause in this contract, because frankly, oftentimes, let me tell you this, sometimes they may not want to work with you either. So maybe you just need to ask.
Yeah. No, I know. That's what I told them. I said, ask if there's a way, just say that you don't love, you appreciate them and their time and make it as nice as possible, but that you aren't feeling comfortable and want to get out and see what they say. But it's a tough thing because I agree with buyer broker agreements.
Yeah.
I agree with the value of a buyer agent. Like highly agree on that value. I have a client right now who she doesn't have an agent and she got referred to me by somebody that she isn't using and she's going straight to the listing agents on everything
Yep.
and came to me and said, "Do you think it's going to be okay?" And I said, "Listen, there's only so much I can help you with." And the listing agent will always be binded to the seller because that is their original agreement.
Yep.
And when it comes to negotiations and it comes to inspections, I really can't help you with that. It's just not my expertise. Like I can look at an inspection, but I can't tell you what to do with it. So I, I think you stab yourself in the foot when you don't actually have somebody who can negotiate the way you need and can actually go through all the steps of an escrow that it takes to get through. It's not a simple process. There's a reason they are valued the way they are. It's it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to know. Yeah.
These new rules are really forcing realtors either to really get better at their job or quit. And unfortunately, I don't think they meant this, but there's a lot of younger agents don't want to get into this business. Because you imagine hiring a 22-year-old. No offense if you're 22 years old, but
Not at all.
somebody to sign an agreement with them that says that if you can't negotiate your own commission, that you're going to have to pay that 22-year-old outside of escrow tens of thousands, 50, $60,000. That's hard for a brand new agent.
Of
That's
course.
really hard. And then it's also really hard for the older agents that are not into technology and stuff like that. It's incredible how much paperwork there is. I just got off the phone with somebody who wants me to sell their house in Pasadena, and she asked me how many pages is the listing contract. And so the listing contract has addendums and it has disclosures. You're looking at 75 pages.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Right.
And you better know, and your agent better know what's in those pages.
Yeah. So tell us a little lessons from working on properties that have failed to sell before you got the listing.
I would say maybe 20% of the listings, my business is they're from sellers that they couldn't sell their property with the previous agent. Oftentimes it's because the sellers were making some sort of a mistake that's usually in the book. Perhaps they had an agent that wanted to do everything off market, or the agent was trying to double
Mm,
end everything, and the agent was only showing the property to people that didn't have an agent. So that listing agent could represent both sides and make double the commission. Oftentimes, I'll be really frank with you. If a house hasn't sold and you're doing everything right, it's usually price. Now, that's it. Now, if you're selling the Netherland Ranch or something, it's a different story. But we're talking about 99.9% of the housing stock. If it's not, if you're doing everything right, if you're sticking it in the multiple listing service, you have great information, the floor plan, the photos, the realtors answering the phone, all those things to that help really make it happen. But if your agent is doing all of that and you're still not getting any offers, it's not selling, it's usually the price. We like to say
Yeah,
in real estate, the market will speak. And sometimes the market speaks by not even giving you anything. And that's the market. And it really depends on where you're at and what else is going on in the area. Every market's different. I'm in Pasadena. The Pasadena market is completely different than San Marino. And San Marino is only five miles away, four
totally.
miles away. And it's a different market.
Yeah, you can cross a bridge and are in completely different market. Like,
Yeah, you go from where you're at, Los Feliz,
oh
to
my goodness.
Atwater. It's a different buyer. It's a different
It's
everything.
different even just Atwater across the street to Frogtown
Yeah.
or Gliselle Park. That is a massively, if I ever have an appraiser that puts a comp on that side of the street and we're selling an Atwater, I go, well, I'm like, what are you doing? This is a terrible appraiser. Get a new one out there. Like
Yeah.
I know it's 0.2 of a mile, but it is a totally different town. You cannot comp on that side of the street. Sorry. And if the
Yeah.
appraiser knows this town at all, he would know that he can't. I'd rather
Well,
him.
and then we have all these federal rules now where we can't even really pick the appraiser or ask
No, of course
for
not.
the appraiser to
Yeah.
be local. So we have people coming from San Diego up into my area, like I live in Bungalow Heaven, and they come into these homes that are built in 1905, and they're like, "This is junky," and
They've
it's
never
like,
seen older. Yeah,
"Oh no, no."
totally. That doesn't, I have a very specific panel of 4 or 5 people. And it's very specific for me. And if they do something off, they get off my panel and I have somebody.
Yeah,
So that's as much as I can do. So because of the guidelines from 2010, basically, when all the regulation happened, we are not allowed to call an appraiser. We are not allowed to be directly in touch with them. I'm
yeah,
not allowed to know who goes out there. But what I am allowed to know are the appraisers that are on my panel, and I can control which appraisers are on my panel for which area. So I have 3 that are specific to Northeast LA. And those are my appraisers for Northeast LA. And they live in Northeast LA and their appraisal companies are named Silver Lake Appraisals. Like you can be specific in that way. You can't look in 2006 and 7 when I was at Countrywide and I was doing fast and easy loans all day long. I'd be at a listing with my buyer and I would call the appraiser at the listing and be like, hey, I need an appraisal done tonight. I need it to come back in at 7:35. I need it tomorrow.
yeah,
And I would get it. I would get the appraisal back and it would be at price. It was not okay.
yeah,
Obviously, we can figure out why that's a conflict of interest because
yeah,
appraisers, of course, were feeling like they had to bring values in for us.
yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't get the job. I
Right.
get it, but
Yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't happen anymore. But so tell me like common pitfalls that a seller might face and then how to avoid them.
so I'll tell you the big one. The big one that I found is, and these are all National Association of Realtors statistics. 75% of all home sellers interview only one agent. And they say interview, but they just pick the first person. It's usually a friend or oftentimes
That high percentage.
it's very high, it's 75%. They,
Wow.
they interview only one. I have a little thing in the book that I talk about that your agent should earn your business. You shouldn't give your listing. Everybody says, "Oh, I gave my listing." That's horrible. Make them earn it. Make them earn it.
Yeah.
So it's 75% only use one. And there's a chapter about hiring friends and family. And that basically, when you're hiring friend or family member, you take the nuclear option off the table. You can't yell at them. You can't fire them. You got to see them during Christmas. My worst clients are my mom and my dad and my brothers and my uncles.
Always.
And they were great. But it was that you got that edge going the whole time is, please God, let this go well, because they all
Yeah.
blame the realtor. And a lot of times it's not their fault. It's just the way it works out. But okay, there's 75% only interview one, 10% interview three or more. And what's crazy also is 75% of all home sellers never use the same realtor again.
Oh my God.
75. Now, that might be because there's another crazy stat, and these are all in the first chapter. 87% of all realtors are out of the business in 5 years. So, yes, 87% of all brand new realtors are out of
Oh
the
my
business in
God.
5 years. So, work with somebody, interview multiple agents. It,
That is
hire somebody,
wild. That is a
hire
wild.
hire somebody who's been in the business for at least 5 years, and you're going to be pretty good. And the other
Yeah.
thing I recommend is the realtor that you bring on to interview to sell your house, they should tell you up front that they won't represent a buyer on your transaction. They should tell you up front that they value what's called a fiduciary duty, that they will work for you only from start to finish
Mhm.
in your best interest. And that's actually going to make you more money.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have to ask the realtor. So if you interview three agents and you find somebody who's super local, super experienced, been in business for 5 years, and tells you how serious they are about fiduciary duty, you've got most of the problems thrown away, and you're going to probably have a pretty good
Pretty good.
experience.
And what would you say to the seller? Why does it make them more money? Why is it so important? It's a great idea. I can see why a seller would feel attached to this, knowing that you represent only them and you have only their best interests at heart, of course. But what is it that you say to them when you say it, I will only represent you?
If you allow your agent, I'm sorry, to represent both sides, I mean, of course, it's just a conflict. A lot of people don't quite understand how that actually shoots yourself in the foot. Because so as a listing agent, when I'm representing a seller, if I have a buyer, I'm by law required to tell that to all the buyer's agents. So get this, if you're a buyer and you want to
Okay.
buy that house and you find out that the listing agent has their own buyer, you're probably not going to write an offer. Or you probably won't engage in the bidding war if there is a bidding war. If there's multiple offers, the best way to
Sure.
get the best price usually is a bidding war, and you ask everybody to resubmit at their highest and
That's
best
an offer.
price.
Yeah.
Now, a buyer's okay. There's a lot of emotion that's involved in residential real estate because you're buying a home. It's an emotional purchase. You're thinking about where your kids are going to live. Your mom and dad are going to maybe retire with you, whatever.
Sure.
It's a lot of work to write an offer as there's a lot of emotion. Why would you want to go through that knowing that there's a chance that you're never going to get that property? Because that listing agent has their own buyer. You're going to be like, gee, they're just going to use me for price to figure out the price. They're just going to use me. Like, why would you put the brakes on a potential sale that way? And that's
And
what I
then the
explained.
seller isn't getting the same kind of interest in the property.
Yeah, and they wonder, gee, wonder why. Gee, I wonder why my agent is the only one that brought an offer. But and then the agent goes, because I'm working harder than everybody else. I'm sorry, that's not usually true.
Of course.
Yeah. You know how many realtors like me? Not that many. I have some bad reviews on Amazon, and they're from realtors. It's because most of the mistakes that people make when they sell a house, those mistakes actually benefit the realtor. Like for the dual agency, allowing
Sure.
your agent to represent both sides helps the realtor because they make double the money
Sure.
potentially.
And it doesn't help either seller or buyer. That's what's so interesting. Again, depending on the property, like you said.
It doesn't help the seller, but it helps the buyer and the agent.
It helps the buyer land it, but can
Yeah.
they really negotiate in the way they need? If
Well,
there
there's
is a
that.
problem with the roof, if there is a problem with sewer, can they really expect the listing agents, the seller's listing agent to represent them in the way that they need in that type of negotiation? It's a tough
Look,
thing to do.
it's awkward. It's
Yeah.
awkward and it's legal and it's awkward. And then you understand maybe why 75% of all home sellers don't use the same agent again.
Right.
Part is because they just don't like that when they've experienced it. Really experienced home sellers that have bought and sold multiple times, they resonate with this book. They resonate with the conversation about dual agency. They resonate with all
Yeah.
because they've been through it. They see it. They understand it. And they always have a story. You know how I bought this house? I was There were 10 offers and I went directly to the listing agent and I got it. And the listing agent told me that I was one of the lower offers, but they had my back and they got the property. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's awesome. How does that make you feel if you were the seller? They're like, oh, screw that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want that. I'm like, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
What do you feel about dual mortgage broker and real estate agent? Because I'm sure you know how I feel about that. But what are your thoughts on that?
So
Because a lot of people are doing it right now to get a little bit of both.
my focus as a real sell in the Pasadena area, 5 mile radius, I mostly represent sellers. That's my lane that I like to stay in. It's for me to go into other lanes, I wind up diluting my energy and stuff. So I think there's a jack of all trades is a master of none. There's some very talented people and they can handle multiple things. And I know there's agents out there that do commercial, residential, they do property management. I don't have that capacity. I'm good. I'm not that good. I believe in focusing on a professional that just specializes in a certain thing. Now,
Yeah.
I've had offers from agents that are also the mortgage people. I'm actually fine with that. In a way, it's nice because I have direct communication with the lender and their underwriter. I feel more comfortable that way, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. I feel, of course, like it's a conflict of interest, of course.
All right, you got me. It's a
But
con.
it's
It
in
is.
the same way. I
Yes.
just don't feel like you can represent both, even though you have one lane to get them to, and you are rooted to do both and get them to closing, as we all are. But it's the same thing. You just feel like you have one head and you can only wear one hat on that head.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
our business is tough enough,
And it's
really,
tough enough,
to do
honestly.
multiple things. I don't quite get it, especially now. The California Association of Realtors 2 days ago just updated 75 forms and they added 32 new ones.
Oof.
This is when I got into the business, there were maybe 40 forms. There's 390 forms now.
Yeah, it is. And I expect at some point the regulation to go down a little, but it just that sounds daunting for to have that many more forms. It's just
All
seems,
the more
you know,
reason to hire somebody with experience.
to have an expert on your side, there's nothing like it. I just had a deal that I got docs out on and funded same day today. And it went from changing the investor on Monday to locking Monday
Oh,
to
wow.
getting everything approved to being clear to close yesterday and getting docs out this morning and funding today, right? In 4 days, basically. And it was because it's a condo. And I swear they're making this stuff up now. Like, I can't even tell you. I got on the phone with my condo guy and I was like, are they making this up at this point? Like, what is this new rule? Why is it so hard and difficult? So I guess the roofs are covered by ACV, actual cash value.
Oh,
And now Fannie and Freddie won't do it. Fannie and Freddie will not do an ACV on insurance for condo because it basically
oh.
takes less than their deductible and they won't cover the full cost of what
I
they
feel like I've become an insurance agent over the last 6 months because
totally.
I
And
mean,
I'm like, what? Since when do we care? What? Like, how is that a risk? So they're only going to cover 90%? Does the HOA have enough reserves? Are they looking at reserves to see if the discrepancy is there? Like, I don't see where the risk is. Why can't we get a waiver on it? And of course, my condo team, who's brilliant and they know Fannie, like movement is very well versed with Fannie and Freddie. I've gotten many condo projects taken off the Fannie Freddie unwarrantable list because we can do that quickly here. And my condo team was like, Natalie, if we go to Fannie with a waiver on this, they're going to mark the condo as unwarrantable. And then that's a whole other issue because then it takes time to get them out of that stance, right? So I literally had to, in this case, somebody who is a loan officer and a realtor and a blah, 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 they're not going to know what it's going to take to get a loan out the door in 4 days.
I agree.
And the steps, the extreme amounts of stress and steps that I had to be on top of every hour of the day for 4 days to make sure that every single thing that has to happen happened, because we got the news on Friday and I had to completely reset up the file with a new investor, a new underwrite, a new lock, new CD, new lock LE, not everything, in order to close on time, because the seller was said that he would pay the extra cost. I was even able to get the same rate, but it cost a point. And I went back to the seller and said, will your seller pay the point? Because our buyers are not going to pay the point. I just know they're not. And he said, if you can still close on time. And I was like,
Wow.
that gives me 5 days. I was like, yeah,
You're a rock star.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Let's do it. But that's being an expert in it, having done this so long and having a relationship with my team the way I do. So I have a very strong relationship with my underwriters and an extremely strong relationship with my processor and my doc drawers. And that's what it takes to do something that quickly, is that you can text them. And anyway, so yes, I have my own thoughts on the not dual agency, but dual, I guess, everything, lender and realtor and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny. The realtor numbers are going down, and probably for loan officers too. People are getting out of the business.
Very much.
And it's sad. And it's been great for me. But yeah, the regulations, and it is very difficult what we do.
It is. And it feels harder right now, for sure. Like, again, that kind of thing I could have never known in advance that was going to be a problem, because it's new and it just feels like a little like things are tightened.
Yeah.
It is a little, and loosening. So tightening and loosening. I have tons of programs now for bank statement only and for non-warrantable condo. Here's the thing, I was able to take that from the Fannie approved file into a non-warrantable, non-QM program and still close it in 5 days, because I have my own underwriters on this investor program. I didn't have to broker it. So it's like a lot has opened up, so many different ways I can qualify somebody. But that causes, it's more complicated because there's a lot more that goes into understanding those programs and the guidelines and stuff.
You're a rock star. That's great.
We just do our best. You know what I
We
mean?
just do our best. I'm the same way. I just do my best.
I'm hyper focused on getting my clients the best deal and closing the home for them. That's all it is for me. But I feel very responsible for them, is how it is. Yeah.
When your buyers are thinking about selling, tell them to take a look at this book.
Yes.
Like I said, I'd be happy to give them a copy. If you want to email me or something, I'd be happy to mail you a copy anywhere. I got a whole bunch of author copies really inexpensively, so I can ship them out.
Fun.
I just want to spread the word. I have this idea that I'm going to change the world a little bit, maybe one book at a time, but I hope it does help change our industry, because our industry, the sales industry, really needs to be cleaned up. And there's a lot of unprofessional people, and there's not really that many bad apples, but there's enough that when they rank the professionalism of different professions, the number one is like astronaut, and number two used to be president, but realtors are right below used car salesmen. And I'd like to at least see if I can switch that position or something, but I just think that there's some easy tweaks that we can do as an industry to really elevate our industry and actually make the process better for the consumers. And I think if anybody who is part of that solution, they're going to do better for everybody, and they're going to do better for themselves.
Yeah, it's true.
It works for me.
Yeah, I bet.
My phone rings.
Yeah, exactly. What you've done is amazing. I've not interviewed anyone yet who has accomplished that kind of feat. That's so cool. And I agree. I think that, unfortunately, because it's a more stressful and difficult process than people realize, they get in without thinking they need somebody like an expert or need somebody with a lot of experience to get them through this process. And I think that's why people don't have a great experience with it. And maybe that's why the realtor ends up on this list below car salesman, because it's a difficult process to go through. It's very stressful.
So what's interesting, is a lot of folks thought that AI and or our people would really decimate our industry, kind of like the internet kind of decimated travel agents. And they really thought that the realtor is going to go to the side and be more transactional. You can do stuff on the internet and stuff with, but what they found is the last 15 years, almost every year, the consumers are saying they want realtors more and more. Something
Mm.
like 89% of all consumers saying it's really important to have a real estate agent. And mostly it's because it's so complex. There's so many things going on, and they don't want to
Sure.
trust that process to an algorithm or something like that. Because
Or a 20-year-old in a work office, you
sorry,
know,
yeah, or somebody who's earning a
an
salary,
hourly wage.
one of
Yeah,
these little discount brokerages, which is
exactly.
fine, but if that's what you want, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. No,
But
totally. I'm talking about like Rocket Mortgage that now owns Redfin, right? These are people literally 30 or 40 people in a room, 20-year-olds that just got out of college or whatever, handling your real estate transactions, and they're not in the field.
and also, I think one of the questions you should ask whoever you're going to work with is how do you market yourself? Because if somebody says, I will only work on referral like you, that's a lot. There's a lot to be said about that versus somebody who has to place Google ads or their value proposition is based upon their discounted rates.
Yeah,
It,
exactly.
it's up to you now there's a segment of the population that doesn't care about value. They just care about price. They don't care about what that person brings to the table, but they say
Correct.
80% of them do. And I think if you're any kind of professional out there, if you can explain your value proposition, you'll get paid. It's just we're all in sales a little bit. I tell my teenagers, you're in sales, even though you don't like sales and you hate what dad does, you still got to sell yourself. You still need
Yeah.
to understand how to communicate with people and understand what your worth is. And if you can
Yeah.
provide value for somebody, that's the best thing in the world. And they tell somebody about it, you're gonna be incredibly successful like you are. You don't need to advertise. I don't need to advertise. My phone just
Yeah.
rings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sorry about
Wow.
talking about my teenagers.
Not at all. I was like, oh, he's got kids.
They would
Um,
hate that if they heard this.
oh God.
Yeah, it's too much, Dad. Stop.
Oh my gosh, we didn't really say anything. We could get really into it. No, I'm kidding. Oh my God. It was such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. I think this was really
Thank you,
informative
Natalie.
and a special little podcast here about really something I have not spoken about yet, dual agency. And it's really important for the audience to understand and hear it
Can I show my book?
and get your book. Yes, please.
It's
Look
a
at
yellow
that.
book. It's on Amazon. You can go to my website, michaelbbell.com, and stream it if you want for free.
I
I,
love it.
I just want to get the information out there. I'll email you a
Absolutely.
digital copy. You don't need to buy it.
And we are going to have all of Michael's information, where to find him. He has a website and a Facebook and
Cool.
an Instagram, all of the social stuff. So we will have that in the notes and everything. And again, thank you so much for joining me.
Natalie, it's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to maybe having you on again.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So
There
yeah,
is. We hit one thing only. I want to talk about probate, but the next one.
I want to talk about probates. I want to talk about open houses. I want to talk about the real estate sign. I want to talk about all this stuff that'll be, frankly, it's shocking. But have me on again and I'll do it.
I will. I'm going to schedule you.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage on My Mind. If you're ready to start your mortgage journey or have any questions, I'd love to help. With 20 years of experience, I make the process as simple and stress-free as possible. Check the show notes for my contact info, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. Until next time, I'm Natalie Salins, here to help make your real estate dreams a reality.